I think that Eurovision 2021 was almost the perfect Eurovision. Now, as Eurovision 2022 is just around the corner, and I have impeccable timing, I thought I'd take the opportunity to make a video talking about Eurovision 2021. So why was it the best Eurovision, the perfect Eurovision? Well, maybe not the best or the most perfect, but certainly the most true Eurovision. The 65th Eurovision Song Contest took place on the 22nd of May 2021 at the Ahoy Arena in Rotterdam. It was the first contest back since the COVID-enforced break of 2020 and featured 39 acts performing across 3 shows, with the eventual winners being Italian rock band Måneskin.
Like winning this huge award with this song means so much to us.
Considering its humble beginnings, the contest we call Eurovision has taken quite a considerable journey. Nowadays it is known for many different things, from launching the careers of stars like ABBA and Celine Dion, being a political mess of neighbour voting, being a wonderful place to humiliate the British, celebrating gender and sexual representation, and, depending on who you ask, is either the funnest, funniest, or most painful event of the year. Born in 1955 as a filmed radio programme, the Concours de Eurovision de la Chanson was intended both as a broadcasting experiment and as a means of bringing together a continent that had only a decade before been at war. Like the Euros, but with even more sequence. Inspired by the success that the Italian song festival San Remo had enjoyed, Eurovision had at its heart the aim of proving to Europeans that this new being one continent thing could potentially have some merit. And why would it do that? Well, if we see the Eurovision Song Contest in context with the creation of things like the European Union and this general European post-war drive for peace and unity, we can really see it as part of the process of restructuring European identity and making it into something which sees Europe and European culture as something inherently peaceful and uniting. It brings a vision of a united and cosmopolitan Europe into the living rooms of Europeans to be literally watched and performed, becoming a complement to the political process of European integration. And indeed, for Europe to work, it must exist in people's minds. Boring things like treaties, currencies and trade agreements exist in very abstract terms for most people, but visual expressions of sparkly unity help make it real for the average European. Uniting Europe politically and culturally is a very elitist, economic, complicated and often dull thing to do. And so for it to work, it needs people to fall in love with it. And that's where Eurovision comes in.
Oh, that was embarrassing. We apologise.
Very, very embarrassing.
So how does that relate to Eurovision 2021? Well, just look what happened in 2020. As the world fell apart in the midst of a pandemic, Eurovision found itself in a weird situation. Being all about unity and getting people together, and those things now being illegal, they were forced to cancel it and bring in something new. At short notice, the competition produced a song celebration that called for unity and attempted to strike a hopeful tone in a very unhopeful time. The breakdown of normality was referenced constantly. Måns Zelmerlöw dedicated an acoustic version of Heroes to nurses, and the Rotterdam Symphony Orchestra performed an arrangement of Love Shine a Light over images of European landmarks. Truly beautiful. Or, as one review in the UK press described them, the only moments that sincerely communicated the spirit of togetherness and solidarity that the rest of this bloated 120-minute broadcast so desperately wanted audiences to feel. The Eurovision community may have loved what it represented to them, but across the continent, the celebration felt like a macabre parody of itself. And it was. Eurovision is meant to be fun, positive, outgoing, optimistic. It's meant to be an escape from the misery of the world, not a reminder of it. It has moments that hit you emotionally or aim to introduce negativity. They are generally balanced out by a quick change of pace into something silly or positive, swept up in the whirlwind that Eurovision has become. Without that balance, the song celebration fell flat and seemed to echo for many people how plastic and flimsy this unity really felt in the early days of the pandemic. That might sound harsh, but it was very bleak. Not to put too fine a point on it, but you could argue that post-war Europe as a whole continent had not yet been rocked in as colossal a way as it had by COVID. The idea of Europe took a hit as insularity took hold, and maybe in the back of everybody's mind was the sinister thought that the old world would have to be banished. Yet with 2021, vaccines, hubris, and the concept of bubbles papering over the insecurity of COVID, it looked like this might actually happen. This, of course, being both Eurovision and normal life.
Talking about an online update, it's a message by
the Royal House of the Netherlands.
So, with 2021 and the tentative rebirth of life, the the Eurovision Song Contest's creative team for Rotterdam once again found itself with a major editorial decision to make. How does the celebration of unity, diversity and inclusion reckon with the year of insularity, morbidity and pessimism? The answer, it would seem, was to effectively ignore it. The virus was notable by its absence, with no reference made by the arena host to the show's tenuous position as the first major Dutch test event. The rest of the Netherlands was yet to fully open up, yet no masks were on show. Circumstances prevented Iceland from performing live and Australia from even travelling to Rotterdam, a fact that was pointedly not referenced, except by local commentators. When Duncan Lawrence caught COVID and couldn't perform live, he was simply unable to come tonight, with the BBC's commentator Graham Norton quipping that it sounded like he just hadn't been let out by his mother.
Oh, what could have been.
The exclusion of COVID was remarkable, not just because of how relevant it was to our everyday lives, but because of how well Eurovision could have played into it. This was the first major international event held in Europe, the most obvious marker of a return to normality that we had seen. Why not big that up? You could easily imagine the opening, masks being ripped off to reveal smiles and perspex screens ripped down, like a camp version of the Olympic opening ceremony. Less than 12 months previously, the arena had been a field hospital. How well could that have pulled at Europe's heartstrings? But no, it was just Eurovision, relentlessly upbeat, according to The Guardian. Some songs, some silliness, a few bad jokes, an okay interval act, and in the end, the best song won.
Because rock never dies, yeah!
And that really felt like it worked. We were treated to a few hours of content that was designed solely to showcase songs and entertain, not tainted by the echoes of the virus. Of course, Eurovision needs to have done more than just be fun to have worked. So let's take a look at the viewing figures and what happened next. An average TV audience share of 40% on national broadcast channels, over half of 15 to 24 year olds watching TV at that time in Europe watching the contest, and Italy, the Netherlands, France, United Kingdom, Finland and Germany all posting exceptionally high viewing figures. Statistics which demonstrate a renewed appetite for bringing people together through spectacle. The musical risks taken by 2021's entries also helped. It felt less like a parade of play-by-numbers pop songs and more like a continent celebrating its cultural diversity and literally performing their nations on the international stage. Of those risks, the most remarkable success is perhaps that of Go A's. By July, they had featured in 10 of Spotify's national top 20 charts and 17 of iTunes', and even signed a deal with Universal. That a Ukrainian techno-folk outfit, emblematic of how electrifying the intersection of performance of culture in Eurovision can be, gets such traction from this contest is surely a testament to a celebration of European music doing what it does best. I would like to think that when dealing with the editorial conundrum that is COVID plus Eurovision, the organisers of Rotterdam had a real earnest thought about what the fundamental point of Eurovision actually is. It is Europe performed, dressed up and made to sing. It transmits a vision of a continent and a world where cultures meet and compete in a way that largely doesn't matter. It reduces the power of nationalism and insular politics to be expressed in votes and undercurrents, removing it from the spotlight and focusing on culture, fun and togetherness. Now, this obsession with an idealised version of Europe has been sent up many times, both inside and outside the competition, but it comes from a very genuine place. Now, the politics that it expresses are one of a cohesive and peaceful Europe that looks to the future, and maybe we needed a pandemic to remind us why a competition born from the ashes of war really matters. And what about 2022? Well, we can't wait to find out. It seems a lot slower this year, a few more ballads and thoughtful pieces compared to earlier years. Dramatic moments come thick and fast, balanced out by a few tracks that take themselves less seriously. Russia has been disqualified because invading another competitor is not very in keeping with the point of Eurovision. The nation is being performed in a more obvious way, with 11 countries performing in the national languages, including rare appearances for Lithuanian, Dutch and Breton. Songs like Lithuania's, the Netherlands', and even Serbia's feature artists popular in their own countries with their own organic local scenes transplanted onto the global stage, really making this more of a celebration of European music. Eurovision will remain weird and fun, and it will never really matter. But who it celebrates and how it celebrates it and the version of Europe that it celebrates will always be important. And I can't wait to see what happens next.